Hello, friends. Welcome to episode 251 of the Laravel News Podcast. Today is Tuesday, the 27th of January, 2026. Quick apology for our podcast last time. The audio got released a little bit quiet, and it happens, right? It happens to the best of us. So thanks for sticking with us. We promise this week it'll be better. And Michael, thanks for fixing it. And I don't remember who reported it. I can't remember. Somebody reported it on Twitter.
Yeah, someone posted on Twitter. I forget their name. They were Australian though, so thank you very much to whoever you were. You'll find it out.
I'm gonna have to go find it. Oh, hold on. Wait for it. It was Devin Dombrowski. Thanks, Devin. Appreciate it.
Yeah. So we got the fix out, and then I don't know what happened with Spotify. We could not, we uploaded the new audio, but there was no way for us to replace the audio in Spotify. So the Spotify somehow got like a overly loud version, so everything clipped and was crunchy. So don't listen to that one, unfortunately.
No Spotify version.
I couldn't figure out how to fix it, but we'll do better this week because it had been
absolutely
a month since we did an episode, and apparently I'd forgotten how to do it.
Oh, it happens, folks. It happens. And Michael, thank you for editing the show. As always, you're a rock star, my friend. Okay, hey, 30 minutes, folks. We're going to try and get it into 30 minutes. If you want to hear about some really fun stuff that Michael's been working on as far as automatically generating show notes with AI and fun stuff like that, you should listen over on our other podcast. We've been talking about lots of fun stuff with that and really excited about it. So we're going to jump right into it. Speaking of AI, Laravel Boost version 1.8.10 was released with new AI prompts and Livewire version 4 support. Let's talk about it. So this was released January 14th, so about 2 weeks ago as the time of this podcast. The release adds new AI prompts for code simplification and Livewire v4 upgrades, along with updated installation documentation. I have already installed this one. It works great, and I think I saw Taylor said today that there was yet another version released. So the process to do it is composer update and then run PHP Artisan Boost install. That's it. That's all you need to do. You'll get all the new stuff and it'll prompt you for anything that you need to do. Okay, so in this one though, what's new? Laravel Code Simplifier prompt. So the Code Simplifier prompt in Boost is inspired by the Claude Code Simplifier plugin for Laravel, which Taylor tweeted about not too long ago, which is basically like a Claude MD file that says, hey, here's how you should do this. Run the Laravel Simplifier plugin, and then it will go through and do things that Taylor does, right? And so this release introduces this prompt to help simplify that process. Livewire v4 upgrade prompt. So this new prompt has been added to help developers upgrade their Livewire v3 applications to v4. So it will provide AI agents with the context that's needed to assist with that upgrade process. There is also a Laravel Shift version out there that works really well too. Go ahead and support Jason McCreary. Awesome dude who's been doing this for a really long time. And we'll be starting with that, and then we'll probably be following up with our Livewire v4 upgrade prompt. Again, there is also updated installation instructions. You can take a look at that. But so far as I know, as of the time of the release of this podcast, Taylor just tweeted about this a couple hours ago. Composer upgrade, Laravel Boost install. That's it. Should be good. Artisan Boost install. Laravel Artisan Boost install. Yeah. Okay, there's that one.
Async request cancellation updates in Inertia version 2.3.10 released on the 15th of January. This release introduces async and sync options for the cancel all method, fixes smooth scrolling issues in Firefox, and includes several browser compatibility improvements and fixes. So the async and sync options, this provides developers with more granular controls over request cancellation behavior. This enhancement allows for better handling of concurrent requests and an improved user experience when managing multiple in-flight requests. As mentioned, there's also the Firefox smooth scrolling fix, which specifically targets the Firefox browser. There is an improved component stability for the infinite scroll component. So this will provide enhanced stability for component tests in WebKit environments, reduces flaky test behavior, and improves overall reliability of the infinite scrolling functionality. There was a fix for an issue where once props was not being properly passed on as the second argument in the client-side visit props callback. There is also a fix to the string response handler. This resolves a bug that was incorrectly converting string responses to objects. There are no otherwise breaking changes expected for most applications, but you can review the full changelog. We'll have links to that for you in the show notes.
Okay, very cool. If you were not aware, if you are a VS Code user, last year, I believe, the Laravel team released an official VS Code extension for Laravel. It is now in version 1.4.2. This was released January 16th. There's a couple support things that were fixed. Docker support for Laravel development environments. There was a fix for Pint that was also not working in these Docker development environments, these DDev environments. Configuration option was created that would allow you to disable artisan make commands in your VS Code Explorer and command palette. Not exactly sure why you'd want to do that. I don't know. Maybe there was something running away with those make commands. Don't know. There's enhanced markdown hover links for scopes now. Support for Laravel attributes. We love those. And then the parser was updated to support version 0.1.44. So lots of good information on that. If you happen to be a Docker user, this is going to be a big one for you because it adds Docker support to the Laravel VS Code extension. So those of you that run your Laravel projects in Docker containers, lots of love to you on this one. That's it, really. It's a short and sweet one. Check that one out.
Laravel 12.48 released on the 20th of January and introduces Query Builder expression aliases, new batch lifecycle events, enhanced JSON decoding options for HTTP responses, and a batch finished event. So there is a convenient helper method for aliasing raw database expressions directly on query builders, making raw SQL more readable. So before you'd have to use like db.up raw, you can now pass a new expression instance and pass the strings directly in there. So I have details for that for you. It's pull request 58,436. This release also introduces a new batch finished event that fires when a batch completes successfully, as in all jobs finished without failure. This complements the existing batch failed event and provides more granular control over batch lifecycle management. So you have access to the event batch from within that event. You can event.up listen and potentially trigger follow-up actions, log the behaviors, etc. The HTTP client's response class now accepts a custom JSON decoding flag, which gives you more control over how the JSON responses are parsed. So this allows you to parse a flags attribute and set custom options in there. So you might want all big integers to be returned as strings. You might want to throw an error, etc., etc. So this is particularly useful when handling large integers that exceed PHP's native integer limits, working with APIs that return numeric strings, and enforcing strict JSON parsing with error handling. The handle cause middleware now supports conditional execution through a new skip when method, allowing you to bypass cause handling for specific routes or conditions. This provides flexibility when you have routes that shouldn't be subject to cause policies such as internal endpoints or health checks.
That's a good one.
Yeah. Translation lines may now contain square brackets and curly braces, expanding the characters allowed in translation keys and values without breaking Laravel's translation system. This change removes restrictions on translation content, making it easier to include code snippets, JSON examples, or technical documentation in your translations. When running tests in parallel, compiled blade views are now isolated per process, preventing race conditions and cache conflicts between parallel test processes. This improvement ensures that parallel tests don't interfere with each other's view cache, that view compilation is thread safe across test workers, and that test isolation is maintained at the view layer. No configuration changes are needed. This will work automatically when using Laravel's parallel testing features. This release also adds additional properties to queue events, providing more context for monitoring and debugging. The job popping event now includes the queue name, and job released after exception event includes the backoff duration. There is a whole swath of type safety improvements, including numerous type improvements for better IDE support and static analysis. There is an enhanced pending request type hints for better autocomplete. There is a fixed return doc block for number abbreviate. There is an annotated tuple return type for number pairs, improved collection merge return types, and the pending request pull return type has been widened to support promises. These changes will improve the developer experience when using static analysis tools like PHP Stan or Starm. There is a whole bunch of other additional improvements, bug fixes, testing, and quality, and other changes. As always, if you want to see the full details, be sure to check out the show notes. We've got all of that for you there.
All right, we are going to stay on this VS Code extension train. There was another release, version 1.4.3, which brings Livewire 4 support to the VS Code extension, which is very cool. configuration option. We talked about this configuration option to disable artisan make commands, but it's now in a different place. It's now been surfaced in the VS Code Explorer context menu as well as the command palette. So the point here is that it gives teams more control over their development workflow. So you can say in this particular project, if you pull this down and you're using VS Code, the configuration of this project is you can't just use the make command, possibly because they use like some custom stubs or something like that when you're doing something. So don't just use the default. Use our own custom stuff, I suppose. Also, we talked about there being a pint formatter thing that was fixed for Docker development environments. Apparently, this was also an issue in non-Docker environments. So there was an issue where you would get this could not open input file that was preventing a code formatting from working correctly. So pint formatter should now work as expected on that. There's also fixed namespaced blade components. So this improves the handling of namespaced blade components to make sure that proper resolution and syntax support are there. It addresses issues when working with blade components that use those namespaces. That's it. Again, if you're a VS Code user, definitely check this one out. There you have it.
Yeah. You did mention that Taylor had tweeted about the new version of Laravel Boost released January 26th. Laravel Boost version 2 is now out and introduces a new skill system that enables developers to extend and customize their development workflow. This major release also includes a revamped installation experience, package discovery improvements, and Inertia view skill syntax support. Skill support is being added with synchronization capabilities. There is skills override. There is a new boost add skill artisan command and a refactored installation user experience. Again, you can just run composer update and then PHP artisan boost install. So what's new in version 2? The headline feature of version 2 is the new skill system. Skills allow you to integrate additional functionality into your Boost-powered workflow, making it easier to customize and extend your development environment. The release includes full synchronization capabilities to keep your skills up to date. With version 2, you can also override skills completely. So if you were to replace a skill file in your .ai skills directory, you've got a custom skill. In version 2, you've got version-specific overrides as well, so you can overwrite skills on a per-version basis. There is also documentation for overriding priority from highest to lowest. So you can do AI skills name is a user explicit skill which will override all. This is priority 1, all the way down to third-party .vendor/package/resource boost skill for vendor packages. There's framework defaults, framework version specific, user, root, and version specific overrides all the way through. You can read more about that as well. A new artisan command to let you fetch and install AI skills directly from GitHub repository. So we mentioned boost::add skill. You can pass it a GitHub user name or organization/repository name. You can give it a full GitHub URL. You can give it an owner/repo subdirectory path as well, and it will figure out where to pull that from. But technical improvements: a refactored namespace for renders blade guidelines with updated references. There is enhanced tool execution testing and error handling, a refactored MCP related test for better coverage. There is a no interaction flag added to the Wayfinder skills command, and the update command validation improvements will include links to the full changelog and the Laravel Boost documentation there. But this skills-based approach seems to be the way that everything is trending, kind of breaking everything up into smaller pieces rather than having these large guidelines that take up context and valuable token space in your agentic workflows. So a shout out to the team putting that one together.
Yeah, just to kind of be clear on that. So for me, specifically to kind of understand what exactly it is, I'm going to read a little bit here from the documentation, which if you want to read the documentation, super helpful. But agent skills are lightweight, targeted knowledge modules that agents can activate on demand when working on specific domains. So you have this idea of guidelines, which guidelines, whenever you're loading up your agent, are loaded up front, always. So it's going to be this huge set of preferences and instructions and promptings to the agent so that it knows how to work in your application. And as Laravel is continuing to add these things, you're getting that prompt up front to be larger and larger and larger, right? So how do you only load in the tools that you need when you're working on a specific part of the application? And that's the idea of skills, right? Targeted knowledge modules that the agent can activate on demand. So there's quite a few of them right now. I'm counting about maybe 10 or 12. There's Flux, Folio, Inertia, React, Svelte, Vue, Livewire, MCP, Pennant, Pest, Tailwind, Volt, and Wayfinder. So those are all the current skills right now. You can, however, create your own custom skills by creating a skill.md file. And so this will, when you run Boost update, your custom skills will be installed alongside Boost's built-in skills. And then when he was saying you're keeping these skills in sync, I'm guessing what that means is it's going to save your configuration for what skills you're pulling into the project itself, so that when somebody else runs Boost install, it's going to pull those skills in themselves. So contrary to guidelines, again, skills are on demand, small things there. You can also load up guidelines if you'd like to as well. There's some documentation as well with that about guidelines and how you can utilize those. And then there's also documentation, APIs, etc. I would highly suggest giving the documentation of Laravel a read on this. We've got this linked up in the show notes. It's really helpful. It's hard to explain all of these things on the air. It's a really they do a good job explaining it simply, but it's hard to kind of read through all of that quickly. So I would say take 5 minutes, read through it on your own. You're going to be glad you did. Keeping up to date with this stuff is going to be important. It seems like Laravel's going all in on this front, right? So if you want to keep up with things, definitely take the time to read the documentation. It's going to be very, very helpful. Okay, let's talk about some new stuff, shall we? Everything new in Livewire 4. So Caleb released this a couple weeks ago. It is finally here. It is, according to him, the biggest release yet. So it's not really about adding complexity, more it's about adding better defaults. So we're looking for less friction, better development experience, more powerful tools for building exactly what you want. And so he's been heads down hammering on this for months and rethinking how Livewire components should feel. And I know that watching his videos, he's really proud of and really excited about where they've landed on a lot of these things. So if you're not subscribed to the newsletter as well, I would suggest that. He's always putting out great email content about what are the next things that they're working on. It's super exciting to see those things. And then when they get released, it's like you're ready and primed to go. You already know how to use it because he's put out an email about it. So the most visible change in Livewire 4 is how you write components. So instead of bouncing between a PHP class and a blade file, it is now able to be put all in a single file. This reminds me of the day back in Vue when I figured out, I could put everything in one component. I could put my template, my CSS, my JavaScript all in one place. That's what this feels like. So Livewire 4, that is the default. You put the PHP stuff and the blade file all in one spot. It feels really good. So when you run PHP Artisan make Livewire, that is what's going to be generated for you by default. The lightning bolt emoji makes Livewire components instantly recognizable in your file tree. This is something that he teased last year that we were sort of like, is he going to do it? Is he not? He is. He did it. So you can immediately tell these Livewire components from a blade component at a glance because they are a lot of times published to a very similar location. So that lightning bolt distinguishes one from the other. For larger components, there's also multi-file. And also I will say this, you can disable that. If emojis in your file structure aren't your thing, you can disable that. It's totally fine. For larger components, there's also a multi-file format so that it will keep everything together in a single directory. So you have a counter / and then you'll have counter PHP, your blade, your CSS, your JavaScript. You can even have your tests co-located there inside the same component, which I dig. I think that's very cool. I can't tell you how many times I've had to like search inside of my Explorer to be like, it's probably named something similar to this. Oh yeah, there it is, test. You can just co-locate it right alongside there. So you can create these multi-file components by doing your Livewire make and then -- MFC, standing for multi-file component. You can also, this is pretty cool, you can convert between those two formats, single file format or multi-file format, by doing PHP Artisan Livewire convert, and then selecting the component and then deciding which way you want to do it. Did I start out with a small component and now I want to convert it to multi-file? No problem. Did I start with multi-file and turns out I actually don't need it? Go ahead and collapse it into one. So either way, that works fine. Okay, let's talk about routing. Reference components the same way everywhere. Livewire 4 introduces route : Livewire. So it used to be that you would have to say route get, you'd define the route, and then you would have the Livewire class at the end there. You'd say, this is kind of the class I'm routing to. Now you do route Livewire, and then you do posts / create, and then very similar to how you would define like a blade file if you were doing route view, Route Livewire now does pages, post, create. So the new syntax references components by their name rather than by their class. So this matches how you render components everywhere else in your application. You don't have to do both. It's now just reference it as the component name. Okay. Livewire namespaces. It now ships with opinions about your app structure. By default, you get two namespaces, pages and layouts. Pages are for page components and layouts are for everything else, right? Layouts, right? And then you have resources, views, components that live alongside your Blade components. Scripts and styles. Component JavaScript and CSS now live alongside your components. You can add script and style tags directly in your template. Again, very similar to how it felt back in the Vue 2 days. It was like everything all in one spot, totally fine. And again, you can break that out to the multi-file component at any point if you would like to. Islands are a headline feature of Livewire 4. They allow you to create isolated regions within a component that update independently of the component itself. So when you click refresh, only the island re-renders and the rest stays untouched. Previously, you would have had to like extract this to a separate child component and then pass in the props and all that stuff and events and use that, but no longer do you have to do this. So the performance benefits are really great with this, when you combine islands and computed properties. I'm not going to go into a ton of that. I'm going to let you read that one, but islands are a big deal in Livewire 4. Slots and attribute forwarding. And you know what, honestly, I'm realizing I'm like a quarter of the way through. So I'm gonna skim over some of this here. Mm-hmm. If you use slots and attribute forwarding in Blade components, you're gonna feel at home using the Livewire slots and components and attribute forwarding. Drag and drop is available. You now get smooth transitions really simply. This is one of those things that Caleb talked about in one of his emails, and I think he also put it out on Twitter. But add hardware accelerated animations using the browser's View Transition API. Very simply, super good stuff. Optimistic UI makes your interfaces feel instant. You've got loading states, inline placeholders, JavaScript power tools with Alpine. And then upgrading, of course, is quite simple because it maintains strong backwards compatibility. Your existing components will continue to work. The new single file format is that default for new components, but class-based components will remain fully supported. So upgrading should be simple. Lastly, but certainly not least, there is also a Livewire 4 series on Laracasts that is out there for free for everyone. That is written and recorded by Caleb himself. Definitely check that one out. I am definitely going to be doing so. We are using Livewire in nearly all of our projects now. And so we're going to be upgrading to Livewire 4. I'm sure in our other podcast, I'll report back on how that's going. I have no doubt it will be wonderful. So look forward to messing around with Livewire 4. Thanks, Caleb.
Yeah. Statamic version 6 is in beta now. After an extended 21 release alpha phase, the team is now confident in the stability and expects a short beta period before the stable release. The update includes a completely redesigned control panel with built-in two-factor authentication, a command palette for keyboard-driven navigation, and a move to Vue version 3. The team describes it as the most significant update in Statamic's history. You can check out the Statamic 6 sneak peek article for all the details. To upgrade, update your composer.json to specify version 6.0 and run composer update. And an upgrade guide is available for those transitioning from version 5. A full list of features and changes along with the announcement itself will be included for you in the show notes.
Very cool. Another quick one here. Filament 5 has been released with Livewire version 4 support and a new blueprint tool. So the team has announced that version 5 is a release that is primarily focused on compatibility with the Livewire version 4, which shipped, obviously, as we just talked about, very recently. So what this does is it ensures that Filament stays aligned with the latest Livewire internals while keeping the upgrades predictable and low risk for existing applications. So by shipping Livewire version 4 support as a new major version, projects that do not explicitly depend on Livewire can avoid unexpected breakages during routine upgrades. There are no functional changes between version 4 and version 5. So if you don't, no new features, no big new, you got to get to this new version. Just Livewire version 4 support. It also does have, though, Filament Blueprint. So this is a premium plugin. This is not something that is just installed by default. It is a new tool that is designed to help developers and AI-assisted workflows plan Filament applications more accurately. Likely some agent skill, some guidelines that are getting loaded in. It really is focused on producing clear implementation-ready plans for Filament projects, so you'll want to check that one out as well. There's a release announcement on filamentphp.com.
Last week, we spoke about Laravel News partnering with Laracon India and Harris Raftopoulos making the journey over there for the event next week at the time of this recording. Today, we are also, on the episode today, we announced this last week. Laravel News is the official livestream partner for Laracon EU 2026. If you can attend Laracon EU in person, you absolutely should, because nothing replaces being in the room, meeting people, and experiencing the talks live. And Laravel News readers can use our €50 discount code when purchasing tickets, which are on sale now. For those of us following along remotely, Laravel News will be hosting the full Laracon EU livestream, including every talk from the conference. We'll also be on site throughout the event, running live segments during scheduled breaks and lunch. The goal is not to replace the in-person experience, but to make it possible for the broader Laravel community to follow along live while the event is happening. Importantly, the live stream will be free to watch and available exclusively on Laravel News, and if you plan to watch remotely, you can register to receive reminders, schedule updates, and details as we get closer to the event. And of course, during the breaks and lunch, we'll be live with discussion around the day's talks and themes, insights from around the venue, conversations with speakers and attendees, and highlights from across the Laravel community. We'll also have live stream sponsorship opportunities available during the event, so if you are interested in reaching a highly engaged Laravel audience while Laracon EU is happening, feel free to reach out to us and we can share some more details. We'll have links to all of that for you in the show notes. It's coming around quickly. We're almost at the end of January. As I said, Laracon India happening next week and Laracon EU happening at the beginning of March, and I expect we'll start to hear some rumblings about Laracon US fairly soon as well. So it's all happening for the in-person events this year.
Absolutely. If you run a application on Laravel Forge, you would be with the vast majority of Laravel developers who have pushed something to production and are managing their servers with Laravel. Laravel Cloud, while it is amazing, it is the new kid on the block, right? And I know for myself and probably for others, there's some intimidation when you're trying to consider what does a switch to cloud from a Forge hosted site actually look like. If you're interested in that sort of discussion or in a video that shows you exactly what that's like, the Laravel News team has done exactly that. So they migrated the Laravel News website from a traditional Forge managed setup over to Laravel Cloud live on YouTube. Walk through all the decisions, the deployment steps, all the gotchas that you're going to run into when you're moving a real production Laravel app. Mind you, Laravel News has been around for quite some time. There's a decent amount of data and all sorts of stuff that is associated with this website, and we're not looking to have downtime, right? What are all the considerations you need to be making when you're switching? So if you're currently running Laravel on Forge or really any virtual private server based setup, you've got it running in DigitalOcean or whatever, Vultr, right? Any of those other ones. And you've been curious what a cloud migration might actually look like in practice. This stream is going to be super useful to you. End-to-end examples using a production workload. So it focuses on how they approached migrating this production app, the deployment and cutover mindset, how you reduce risk, verify your steps, then how do you flip the traffic, and then practical checks to run before and after the move, as well as some lessons that were learned, right? This is never going to happen perfectly the first try. And so Eric really took one for the team here. What are the things that he messed up along the way? And what are the things that you can learn to not do? Learn from his mistakes. Stand on the shoulder of the giant, Mr. Eric L. Barnes. Thank you, sir, for writing this one up and for being brave enough to make the switch.
Last episode, we spoke about the release of PHP Debugbar version 3, and following in its stead on the 23rd of January, Laravel Debugbar version 4 was released. This marks a major release with package ownership transferring from the old Barry VDH to Fruitcake/Laravel-Debugbar and brings support for PHP Debugbar version 3, including several new collectors and improvements for modern Laravel applications. So first up, there is a new collector that tracks HTTP client requests made through the Laravel HTTP client. The collector provides visibility into outbound API calls, making it easy to debug external service integrations and monitor response times. For applications using Inertia.js, there is a new Inertia collector, and the Debugbar now also includes improved component detection for Livewire versions 2, 3, and 4. This version also includes better handling for Laravel Octane and other long-running server processes. And the cache widget now displays estimated byte usage, giving developers better insight into cache memory consumption during request processing. And lastly, the version has many UI improvements and settings like debug bar position, auto-hiding empty collectors, and themes, and more. There are a few breaking changes. Obviously, the package ownership was mentioned at the top of the thing, but several features have been removed in this version, including socket storage support, Lumen framework support, and PDO extension functionality has been dropped. Default configuration values have been updated and deprecated configuration options have been removed. You can review your config/debugbar.php file and compare it with the published config for the new package. This is not a standard upgrade. You must manually remove the old package and install the new one using the commands in the article. And after installation, update any namespace references in your code from the old Barry VDH namespace to fruitcake/Laravel Debugbar. Review your config file for deprecated options. Compare the new defaults. The package maintains compatibility with Laravel 9 through version 12. You can see the upgrade docs for details on upgrading from version 3 to version 4.
Woo! It's a big one.
Big.
Folks, we are on this idea of Claude skills, right? And Harris Raftopoulos recently released this. This is called Laravel Herd Worktree. So this is a new Claude code skill that automates the setup of Git worktrees for Laravel projects that are served by Laravel Herd. So let me unpack that real quick. Worktrees are a way for you to be able to work on multiple branches simultaneously for the same repository. So previously, this is not something you would have been able to do. Now, Worktrees is not a Claude thing. It's not a Harris Raftopoulos thing. It is a Git thing. We've talked about this previously. In fact, we had a whole talk about tmux and Worktrees and all that last year at Laracon. Really good talk. But Worktrees essentially will clone off this is maybe not technically how it works. This is my basic understanding of how it works. It's going to create another directory which has the files in it that need to be able to be worked on simultaneously next to the other ones. Why would this be useful? A lot of times you'll have something that will come in. This is previous to how I would have used Worktrees, right? You're working on something, you're in the middle of it, and you have your working directories all full of nonsense that you're working on. All of a sudden there's a bug, and you've got to switch context. You have a couple options. You can either commit the stuff you're working on, you can stash it and hope to God that you don't accidentally delete that stash while you switch branches, right? Or you can use Worktrees. Well, Worktree will allow you to spawn off a different one, keep that one as it is, but be able to switch over to another location and have something that's that you're working on sort of side by side with that branch. Why this has become a new topic that's sort of gained some interest is because with agents, right, it's very possible we're going to want to have multiple AI agents working on our behalf in different branches, different isolated branches. That's what this Claude skill does. So once you install it, you can run Laravel Herd Worktree. That's going to create an isolated worktree. It's going to link it up in Herd at http yourbranch.test. And so it's going to correctly configure the env file for you with the app URL, the session domain, sanctum stateful tokens, correct CORS configuration. Each one of these worktrays operates as a fully independent development environment and allows you to get to it very simply through Herd, which is amazing. Super cool stuff. Also handles the end of the workflow, so it cleans it up after you're done with it, unlinking it from Herd and doing all that good stuff for you. Really, really cool skill here. Harris Raftopoulos wrote this one up. Super excited about this one. Also, David Hemphill recently wrote something about using Conductor, which Conductor is something that is supposed to sort of manage multiple agents that you might be running as well. Similar process to using Herd like this one does, but if you're already using Conductor, you might want to go check that one out. It's not on the show today, but David Hemphill, his most recent blog post is going to be that one, so go check that one out as well.
Moving into packages. First up here, FluentVox wraps Resemble AI's Chatterbox text-to-speech engine in a Laravel-style PHP API with companion CLI tooling. It targets production use with automatic hardware detection, model downloads, voice cloning, and multilingual support. Highlights of the package include a fluent chainable PHP API for text-to-speech, voice cloning from reference audio files, multilingual model with 23 plus languages, GPU acceleration with CUDA and Apple Metal, and full CLI for install, Doctor, model management, and generation. We'll provide some additional details in there, including how to install it using a composer and to get going from there. It does require PHP 8.3, Python version 3.10 plus, and benefits from CUDA or Apple Metal when available. You can use the FluentVox Doctor command to confirm your system's compatibility, installed models, and available devices. We'll have links to all of that for you in the show notes.
This next one is a really cool package. I have written something similar to this, but it only worked with Laravel Pennant. So the idea is, it's called Laravel Deadlock. And what it does is it allows you to manage technical debt with expiring code markers. So we've all written that code that we intend to be temporary, right? We put a to-do there, and the hope is that someday we will come back and fix that to-do, right? Mm-hmm. The problem is that those things get buried, the tickets get forgotten, and that temporary code ends up becoming permanent. So this package by Med Mahmoud Hadaya addresses this by letting you mark temporary workarounds with expiration dates. It uses PHP attributes to do this, so you're going to need to be on a recent version of PHP. But when this deadline that you've defined passes, the package will enforce accountability through runtime exceptions in development and build failures. So, explaining that, you put the date in saying, this is the last day I will accept this being valid temporary code. When you're in your development environment, it's going to then fail. It's going to fail and tell you, hey, by the way, you have code that you said was temporary that is still in here. You need to fix that. It will also fail when you do your build or your CI/CD pipelines. It's going to say, by the way, you didn't run your tests locally, but we ran them for you in your CI/CD pipeline. You have some code there that needs to be replaced. And so the way that this works is you install the package, of course, and then you add the workaround attribute to any class, any method that you intend to revisit, and then you include a description explaining why the code is temporary, and then you set the expiration date. So it allows you not only to mark it with a date, you actually get to include the description as well, which becomes really useful because when you run PHP Artisan Deadlock list, it will tell you, here's something that here's the status, it's either expired or okay, here's the date it expires, here's where it's located, and here's the description of why you might have put it in there in the first place. Hey, we're using the old Stripe API version 2 here, we need to upgrade to version 3. You put that expiration date on it, and whoever the unlucky developer is that develops next on your feature complete platform is going to be tasked with finishing this project. You can then, of course, enforce deadlines in your CI/CD. As we said, it's just a simple check that you need to run PHP Artisan Deadlock check. It's going to then exit your code with a 1 rather than a 0 that prevents deployment until the team addresses that technical debt. Really, really cool. I'm a huge fan of this one. And I definitely think that you should check this one out. Problem. It is. I mean, hey, listen, it's like you throw it over the wall. Whoever's here in a year and a half, it's going to be their problem, and maybe it won't be me. And future so Jake's I guess problem. You're rolling the dice. Exactly. Future Jake's problem. So pretty cool stuff, though. Really, really interesting idea, if nothing else.
The Laravel invite-only package manages user invitations in Laravel applications. It is created by Siobhan Brown, and the package handles token-based invitations with polymorphic relationships, automatic reminders, and event-driven notifications. The package works for applications that need invitation management with status tracking and follow-ups. Common scenarios include team collaboration tools, SaaS applications with organization memberships, project collaboration platforms, event management systems with RSV. There's lots of different things that you could use this for. The polymorphic design means one invitation system can handle teams, projects, organizations, or any other model in your application. Laravel Invite Only includes several features for managing invitations. As mentioned already, polymorphic invitations that work with any model in your application. There is bulk invitation support with partial failure handling, secure token-based links for invitation acceptance, status tracking, automatic reminder emails, an event system for all invitation lifecycle changes, and structured exceptions with error codes for debugging. If invitation-based workflows are something that you need, this this package will make it easier to build API endpoints and provide meaningful feedback to your users as well. You can learn more about the package, view the source code, visit the GitHub repository. We'll have links to all of that in the show notes for you.
Very cool. We've had a recent situation where we needed to temporarily allow access for our users to particular roles or permissions. And so we created what's called like leases, permission leases. And those work really well if you need to provide, I need you to have access to this particular permission for a period of time. You can lease it, and then it gets expired, and then it gets returned. However, the package we're talking about right here is sort of the opposite of that. It basically does the restriction of user actions for a period of time using sanctions or prohibitions. So Laravel gates and policies are great for authorizing user actions, but if you have somebody who's maybe a bad actor, maybe they're not even a bad actor, maybe they've just temporarily exceeded API limits, right? Or they did something not preferable, and you need to block them from doing a particular thing for a period of time. That's what this is about. Laravel Prohibitions, created by Kirch, stores time-limited restrictions in the database that allow you to apply and lift those things dynamically without changing your code. So there's two ways that this works. Number one is prohibitions. Those are individual single action restrictions. So this is the one thing, it's a named prohibition I have for a single action. There's also sanctions, which are a group of prohibitions that can all be applied to a user together. Installing the package, run the migrations, you can optionally publish the configuration file, but then you just set up your models by saying use has sanctions, and then you can create those prohibitions and sanctions very simply by using the prohibition model or the sanction model, and then you can apply those restrictions to users by saying user prohibit, user apply sanction, and then of course lastly you have to check, does this user have any prohibitions or sanctions applied to them? And so in that case you'd say user arrow is prohibited from, and then you could do that check in your policies, in your gates, and in any of those places you'd like to do that. There's also events that will fire in the case that they do hit a check, model prohibition triggered, model sanction triggered, and so you can do events. You can listen for those and handle those, like logging, something like that as well. Pretty cool concept. I like it. Kirch, thanks for putting that one out.
Last package we have for you today is Radiance, a PHP library by Tomas Lopez that generates unique deterministic mesh gradient avatars from any input string. Given the same seed, the library produces identical avatars every time, making it a practical choice for user profiles, identicons, and placeholder images. At its core, Radiance uses a Fluent API for configuration and will allow you to output in SVG, I assume PNG, and other formats as well. Radiance includes several configuration options for fine-tuning your avatars. You can set shape and size, you can set a base color or use a solid color for non-gradient outputs. There are filters to adjust saturation, contrast, fade distance, text, customization of font family, font size ratio, text shadows, pixel patterns, add identicon style overlays with pixel grid size, pixel opacity, density, and shape options. You can output to SVG or base64 encoding, so you can include these things in line. It is built on top of Colority, another library by the same author for color manipulation. You can explore the tool with an interactive playground at radiance.tomleprod.dev and view the source on GitHub.
Taylor threw something about this out the other day as well, which was really interesting. So you'd kind of give it it was almost like it wasn't a gravatar necessarily, but you'd feed it an email and it would give you this deterministic gradient.
You said really, the other day, that was months ago, but yes, I do remember that.
Was it?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, yeah, relative, right? The other day.
There's some fun stuff you can do with like random deterministic values, and it's quite simple to do it within PHP, but it's really good if you want to be able to randomly generate different things for users of your application, but you want to make sure that you're always generating the same random values.
Yeah, exactly.
So you can take some kind of string. Email address is usually good enough because it's going to be fairly unique in your application, and you can then, I think it's CRC32 is so you pass the string into this method, and it'll give you a random integer that you can use to then seed your random operation. So it's quite there's a few steps to it, but it's a good way of going about it for things like this where you want deterministic results of your random data, so you get consistency. It makes it easier to test as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Super cool. Hey, we did skip one package here I'm going to loop back to because I think this is actually a pretty important one. If you're running a SaaS and you are allowing your users of your application to generate jobs that are going to be queued and sent off to the background, you need to be concerned about fair queue distribution. What I mean by that is if you have a user who's coming in and they push 500 jobs at midnight, but you have a bunch of different users who do that, right? Or you have somebody who comes in at 12:05 and they push jobs. Should you do like first in, first out, like I'm going to roll all those 500 through before I touch even one of the other users' queued jobs? Ideally, the answer would be no. You would want to do some sort of distribution among those to make sure that you're treating your users fairly. You don't allow, even if this person has 500 a month that they can use, you don't want them to give them all in one shot and nobody else can get to your queue until those jobs are completed. So it's a pretty complex problem to solve, but this Laravel balanced queue package manages queue distribution across user groups with per user concurrency control and multiple partition strategies to prevent against that queue monopolization. So default queues in Laravel use that first in, first out. If a user dispatches 10, I'm not going to re-explain the problem. You get the problem, right? You can add this balanced dispatchable trait to your job classes, and then you can dispatch the jobs using that balanced connection. And what that will do then is will detect partition keys from properties like user ID or tenant ID, which will group each user's jobs into their own partition. So the package will then offer these rotation strategies like round robin or random or smart. Will prioritize smaller queues to prevent starvation when those job volumes are varying between users. It also has concurrency limits. So you can say, I only want to allow a max of 2 jobs to be run per user at a time, and it will enforce that. The other thing that's really nice about this is this will work with Laravel Horizon. It's configured to do so. So you don't have to sort of throw that out the window. It can still work with Horizon, which is a great tool to watch, to manage, to have multiple queues, multiple supervisors, and then be able to watch those working through there. Really cool stuff. Paul Redman wrote this one up. Thank you so much to the team, or just to the individual, Jan Gusick, for writing this one up.
Just the one tutorial to go this week, and this was a live stream that Eric Barnes, our fearless leader, did with Laravel garbage man Jason McCreary, which was speeding up Laravel news with Cloudflare. I think we've spoken previously about JMac's new course where he released Faster Laravel, I think it was. Fast Laravel. And so performance tuning in Laravel often starts with database indexes, query optimization, or infrastructure upgrades, but in many cases, the biggest gains come from a much simpler realization, and that is that large portions of your Laravel application are effectively static. In a recent interview, Eric sat down with JMac, the creator of Laravel Shift and the new Fast Laravel course, to walk through exactly how Cloudflare page caching can transform a production Laravel application. We use Laravel News itself as the case study, and there were some highlights in there talking about why Laravel apps often miss out on caching, the homepage problem, and the opportunity to solve it. Livewire, Blade, and static rendering, Cloudflare's free tier is often enough for most people. Performance gains and cost savings, and a practical path to faster Laravel apps. You can check all of the information out. We'll have it linked for you in the show notes. But yeah, I think the main thing is just when Cloudflare detects on your pages, particularly those that are like the homepage, if there is a cookie there, it just won't cache it because it assumes that that it's a dynamic page, and so it can't be cached. And Laravel will inject its session cookies into all pages, whether or not the user is logged in or there is a need for it. So for a lot of people's homepages in particular, or any sites really that are predominantly content that is not for authenticated users, you can probably just scrap those keys or ignore those kind of things to get better performance out of your application. So definitely check out that case study video. We'll have links to that for you in the show notes. But that brings us to the end of our 30 minutes in just 48 minutes of talking.
In just 48 minutes, we did it. All right, folks, episode 241. Find show notes for this episode at podcast.laravel-news. 251. What did I say?
241.
Sorry, dang it. Wow, it's happening. Getting old, guys. Podcast.laravel-news.com/251 is where you can find show notes. Rate us up in your podcatcher of choice. 5 stars would be amazing. Hit us up with any questions on X, on Blue Sky, at Laravel News, at Michael Dorinda, at Jacob Bennett. It was a pleasure, folks. We'll see you next time. Take it easy.
Bye all.